I took my meds this morning. We're good.
Yay! Me too. Period. We're medicated. Okay, let's do this. Hey, my favorite caffeinated, medicated, and never hydrated nurses. It's your favorite nurse and your favorite therapy podcast. I beg your pardon. I miss you, Bestie. How are you doing today? I miss you so much. I hope everything is going well. And like I said, every single episode of the podcast, I hope things are going well. And if it's not, it's okay because tomorrow is another day to try. As long as you know that you have another day and you never give up on yourself. Believe in yourself. Self-love is self-care. That's right, Bestie. Before we even continue, Bestie, do me a quick favor. Go download this episode and all other episodes in Apple and Spotify and make sure that you follow and turn on notification and make sure also that you take a screenshot and tag I beg your pardon R on Instagram so that I can repost it, Bestie. And Bestie, if you ever wonder how I stay caffeinated, I am drinking my one and only favorite energy drinks, Rice Fuel, RYSEFUEL. And this energy drink contains 200 milligrams of caffeine. But you know, Bestie, we have to drink more than just a coffee and energy drink because coffee these days doesn't even work anymore. I'm way tolerant when it comes to caffeine. So I have to mix and match. But Bessie, that's just me, okay? So never copy it. But yes, if you ever want to get Rice Fuel, like the ones that I have right now, which is one of my favorite flavor, Peach Cooler, you can go to Google and type RYSEFUEL locator to find the nearest Rice Fuel to you. And Bessie, since we're here this week, we have one of the most awaited guests on this podcast. The people who understand the struggle the most. Do you guys have an idea who it is? CNA. Ooh, baby. I know so many of you guys have asked me every single week, please bring a CNA on the podcast because nobody understands us. Nobody sees us. Nobody sees our value. But baby, that's why I brought you a CNA to show you guys how much value and importance you guys have in the healthcare system. Welcome to our podcast, Meghan. Hi, Meghan.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for accepting this invitation to come here to the podcast. You know what? People have been asking for a representative of the CNA community.
I am so happy to be here, honestly.
And I am so happy that you're here because you are my best friend in healthcare. Like nobody else sees the struggle and goes through the struggle at the same time, but CNAs and nurses. Tell us something about you, Meghan.
Since we're in Quebec, I'm called a PAB here, but CNA, PAB, it's all the same thing.
Same thing. For anyone who doesn't know what a CNA is in Quebec, we call them PAB, préposé ou bénéficiaire. So basically it's CNA, but that's just the French way of saying it.
Yeah, I'll probably say PAB just because that's what I'm used to.
Oh, that's totally fine. Now they get it.
CNA.
What the PAB is. Exactly. Exactly. So how long have you been a PAB, Meghan?
Forever.
Forever? Oh my. Okay. Sometimes it feels like that. Listen.
I may look young, but I've been a PAB for 10 years.
Okay.
I'm not kidding.
I thought we're talking about like 5, 6, 7
No.
Oh my God.
So I actually got started when I was in university. I kind of just like fell into it, honestly. I was new to Montreal. I was super desperate for a job and I couldn't speak French at all.
So wait, let's go back a bit. So you're not from Montreal?
No, I'm from Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And why the change?
I went to university here.
Right.
I have a degree in anthropology, doing nothing with that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love that.
Kind of just a case of I needed to get through school and I did a degree that was accessible to me. So here we are. And while I was in school, I needed to work. Couldn't speak French, which is like essential for any job in Montreal.
Right.
I feel like.
So here in Montreal, it is essential that you speak the language. Otherwise, it's less opportunity and less for you. But honestly, there are so many other jobs there that just wants a good person.
Exactly. And that's how I fell into home care because I was working for a couple that both have cerebral palsy. and they're Anglophones. So they were looking for English caregivers. And they were fairly young. They're in their 40s. So they didn't want somebody who was necessarily like older than them to come in and take care of them. They wanted it to feel more like
a younger person who has the more energy. And I'm not saying like, older people don't have the energy, but I guess younger people have the energy, the passion and whatnot, because it's easier too, because these people are just looking for a job to do.
Exactly.
You're probably super young too when you wanted to do it.
I was 19.
Oh my God.
I started with them. I was a baby.
Super young.
Like I even did things with them. Like I went on vacation to Disney World with them even. So that took like a lot of energy.
Oh my God. So almost like my mom, because my mom is a caregiver for our family. So she's been working for them for I think 15 years now.
Okay.
And she comes to their Florida trips, to their Paris trips, to every single trip.
Family gatherings.
And honestly, she's part of the family.
That's how it felt. And that's why eventually I left there. I still help them out occasionally. Like,
That's super cute.
especially in like COVID times, sometimes, they have a worker that's down with COVID. And if nobody goes, they don't get out of bed.
Exactly.
So like, if I'm free, I'll go fill in still. But it just felt, I find with home care, it was almost too personal for me because I felt like I had no separation between my work life and my personal life.
Oh my God, that is so true.
But I don't know. It just got to be a little too much.
That makes more sense. You know what? You have to do what makes you happy.
That's what your 20s is for. It's for figuring it out.
Exactly. Because, there's so much younger people these days that they think like at 22, I have to be this, or at 25, I have to have a family, a job that's secure. Like, no.
I'm 30 now and I'm going back to school to become an LPN. Like, it's never too late.
Period. Okay, that's another topic to talk about.
It is.
But yes, like, it's never too late to do something that strikes your interest.
Yeah.
If you want to do something, you can do it. Doesn't matter if you're 30, 40, 50. As long as you're happy.
That's it.
Again, like, you don't want to be going to a job that you hate.
Well, and like, I do like being a PAB. I really do. It's just not something that I can see myself doing until retirement because it's so physically demanding.
Oh my God. It's the most physically demanding job. And again, the pay is not it. Zero.
Especially when you're working private. Like, everybody says, go private. It pays better. It was $10 less than I'm making now at the hospital.
You're kidding me.
I am not. And we even had to be like waiters in the dining room. We had to do their personal laundry on top of all the regular tasks as a PAB. Like,
that's crazy.
It was ridiculous.
I could not imagine that. So before we get into the nitty gritty of the PAB stuff, so you started being a PAB at what age?
When I started in home care, I was 19. And then when I started at a nursing home.
Oh, so you work at a nursing home?
I did work at a nursing home for a little bit.
Okay.
But I kind of felt the same sort of thing as working with home care. I got too attached to the residents. They were so into my personal life. I was so into theirs. And it just gets so emotionally draining. And I'm sure some people love that. And they love having that really deep connection.
Right.
But for me, it was too much.
Right.
I prefer the hospital where the patients are shorter term.
Yeah. And sorry, but I think you also have that caring for someone, that empathy, that sympathy for someone. But it's just that it got to a point where it was way too much and it's affecting you personally. Like, more than just it is a job.
Exactly.
I feel like you have the heart, you have the compassion for other people. Because again, all the jobs that you've been doing are about being compassionate.
Yeah.
About caring for someone who's a stranger to you.
I love caring for other people. It makes me happy.
I love knowing that I was part of someone's healing.
Yeah.
But what makes me hate the job is the environment.
Yeah. It's not that you hate the job, it's you hate all the other shit that comes with it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I get it.
And the shit that's not even, again, I've worked with so many CNAs and I have always respected them. I mean, I respect everyone equally, but the respect I have for CNAs goes above and beyond.
But not all nurses do.
Oh my God. We have so much to talk about.
We do. This is going to be a long episode.
Guys, are you ready for this? Get your coffee, your popcorn, everything, because baby, this is the tea. It's piping hot and you're drinking it straight from the kettle while it's boiling. Not every single nurses respect CNA.
No.
So what is a pet peeve that you have with nurses? Let's start with that. Let's start with a thing.
I am a part of your interdisciplinary team. I am not your slave.
And I have seen nurses treat CNA that way.
Yeah, I find because I work at a hospital now, and because I'm also a student, I'm learning to be an LPN.
Oh my God, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I only work part-time, so I don't have a permanent floor or unit that I work on.
So you get
I'm a
floated
float.
on.
Every day I'm floated. And I find that some units are better than others. Some units, the nurses have so much respect and they'll see me running around like crazy and they'll be like, what can I do to help? And they'll go change a patient. They'll pass my trays. They'll do anything they can to help me if they have the time. And there's other floors where it's just like, I already have 6 call lights going off and they're like, but Mr. Smith wants his socks on. And I'm like, you couldn't have done that while you were in there?
Right. Listen, first of all, the first thing you mentioned where nurses are actually helping you, that's what they're supposed to do anyways.
I love them.
Right? And the other ones who think that because it's your job and it's in your description, first of all, we learned the PAB stuff, the CNA stuff,
I was going to say.
in the very beginning of nursing.
So since I'm in LPN school right now,
right,
this is the most recent thing we were covering was our basic care, and we're getting ready to go on basic care stage.
Right.
There's already students in my class that are being like, why do we have to learn this? That's what the PAB is for.
Wow.
Like how to make enemies so quickly. Your PAB is going to hate you.
They are starting very well. You already know this is not going to be good LPNs.
No, like good luck on your basic care stage if that's your mentality.
Right. And again, right now I'm teaching younger nurses. I am teaching first semester nursing students in a university.
Okay.
And what I always tell them is that these things that I'm teaching you guys right now, basic care, cleaning patients, moving them, changing briefs, all of this stuff is something you do as a nurse. And I was like, there's going to be a point in your career when you become a nurse where it's going to be harder for you to do these things because as a nurse, you have priorities.
Exactly. And changing a patient is not your priority. Putting on a patient's socks is not your priority. But there comes a limit. If you were already in the room and you're going to sit at the nurse's station after, and I'm running around like crazy, you can do me a solid.
Exactly. Again, nursing school suggests for you to work as a PAB in a hospital so that you can get your feet dirty.
Yes, it's great experience. And honestly, since I've started working in a hospital, I have learned so much more than I ever learned working home care, because home care, you know your specific patients really well. You know them inside out and backwards. You can look at them and know what they're thinking. But at a hospital, you have different patients every day, especially as a float.
Oh, yeah. It changes every single time. Going back, what made you want to be a PAB?
Well, I think like after I kind of just fell into home care and caring for other people, I realized that I really liked it, and I had more interest in doing something like that rather than having an office job and sitting all day, which I've been there, tried that, hated it. Right. And like I have tried other odd jobs in between, like during the like 10-year span that I've been working as a PAB, and I always end up just coming back to caring for people. It's just what makes me happy. Oh my God, that's so nice to hear again, because there is you have to let people know the reality that there are people out there who's doing a job just because it's stable. Yeah. Just because there's money. Yeah. But there's no money in this job though. So for the people who ever wants to be a CNA or a nurse, there's no money, guys. Nope. I promise you to death, there's no money. I mean, it's a stable job, yes, because they always need you. And again, people in healthcare are leaving because of the conditions that they're put in. That's it. I mean, even like I have a restriction from my doctor to not do overnight shifts, and they'll still call me at 10:30 at night and be like, "Hey, can you come in an hour?" Like, no, I can't. I know. But they're just so desperate. I even worked a shift in emergency, and I said, well, I'm not trained for emergency. Like, it's a separate training. And they said, we just need bodies. Oh, my God. Those are the literal words they used on the phone call. I was like, oh, well, in that case. Well, honestly, right now, they're so desperate. And it's so bad, though, because it's so unsafe, not only for the professional,
but also for the patients.
Well, that's it.
Because it's so hard for you to navigate in a environment where you're not familiar and you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But I know they need...
Emergency is different. Emergency is not like the units at all.
It's crazier. Things are more messier. And it's a lot more like anxiety provoking.
Yeah.
So if you're going through some type of mental illness, it could really affect you a lot.
Oh, for sure. It was really hard for me to learn to say no. Because as often as they call you for shifts, if I accepted every single shift that they called me for, I would never be home.
Right.
And it was a really hard thing for me to learn to tell them, like, no, sorry, I'm not coming.
Right. And so I have a question for you. Do you think you have a tendency to people please?
Oh, God, yeah.
Period. You know
like,
why,
you
girl?
just called me out right now.
Because I have that too. And honestly, I said that because, again, we are on this job because we want to see other people happy.
Yeah.
We want to see other people smile.
Yeah.
And it makes us happy.
I love seeing people improve. I love doing little things to make people feel more comfortable. Sometimes being in the hospital is really anxiety inducing, and you see it a lot with unilingual patients. And in Canada, we have a lot of patients that come from up north that only speak Inuktitut. And that can be really, really scary when you don't know what's happening and the cultural practices are different. And so if I can do anything to help them to feel better in their recovery, like, and that just makes my day.
I have had those patients from up north. It's really hard to see them, not be able to communicate properly or even given the care that they deserve.
Yeah.
Because I have seen so many things. And what are some things that you're proud of as a CNA?
Just making people feel a little bit better during a time that's really, really hard.
And difficult for them. Yes, exactly. So I guess you're lucky enough if you have a really, compassionate, empathetic PAB or a nurse. And that's really hard to find.
Well, and I always think too, like, things can change so quickly. And I've had it happen where the patient that was up, they were lively, they were talking, they were telling me all about their grandkids coming to visit. An hour later, code blue, gone.
Exactly.
You don't know what your last interaction with them could have been. So why not make it a good one?
Being in a hospital is just such a scary experience. Like, you don't go to the hospital because everything is going well.
No.
Most of the time, you're in the hospital because there is something wrong.
Yeah.
And imagine, like, you're already feeling so bad and, things are not going well. And having a provider that's not accommodating, not empathetic, it's hard. And like all you wanted is to be understand and to get a care that you deserve as a human being. Going back to what you said about like nurses treating CNA slaves, have you ever experienced that?
Oh my God, every day.
Oh my God. I
guess I won't say every day. It's like I said, it kind of depends on the floor I'm on. It depends on the nurses I'm working with.
Right.
But like, I'll have at least one shift a week where I'm treated like absolute trash by the nurses. And
I am sorry on part of the nurses community for you experiencing that, because you don't deserve to be treated that way.
We're all part of the same interdisciplinary team. We're all just trying to do the best for our patients. Because
already the whole working in the hospital is so negative.
Yeah.
You come in one room, you're so happy, in the next you're crying and depressed. I even tell my students, like, you guys can feel all the emotions. If you feel like crying for your patient, cry for your patient.
Yeah.
Because you're a human being before you are a CNA, you're a nurse, and that's all okay. But you just have to know where your boundaries are and when it's appropriate to feel that way. It's also just realizing the fact that as a CNA, as a nurse, that the job that you choose requires you to be able to be flexible, as bad as it is, mentally, physically, and emotionally.
Definitely physically.
And again, like, I find CNA my best friends. Because I work with so many CNAs before, and without them, I'm telling you right now, I would not survive those shitty, short-staff, 12-hour shifts.
See, there's things that I never really understood about working as a PB in a hospital until I actually started doing it. Because sometimes, like, I didn't understand that nurses don't answer call bells.
That is true. That is true.
PABs answer call bells. And if it's something the PAB can handle, like, we're going to do it. And if it's something we need the nurse for, that's when we get the nurse.
Right. And I'm not going to deny it because there was instances that I myself could have answered the call bell, but I called my CNA instead.
Yeah. Well,
And I don't want to be fake. There are instances, but guess what? I realized to myself that, hey, you have the time for it. You have the energy for it. You don't have anything to do right now. So why don't you do it? Because a lot of times the CNA will still come,
like the nurse's station,
to ask you because the patient actually wants you and not the CNA.
Yeah.
So why not do it yourself to less job for somebody else and easier for you?
But then on the flip side, there are also times when like patients will ring the call bell and I'll go ask them like, yeah, how can I help? And they're like, I need the nurse.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, why do you need the nurse? I just need the nurse. I don't want to tell you.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, no big deal. So I go get the nurse and then the nurse comes out and is like, yeah, I want his diaper changed. Like I could have done that.
That is the most funniest thing ever because that is also so true. And also like, again, one of the CNAs that I work with in the floor that I used to work at, I love him so much. He straightens me up every single time. He's like, John, I need your help right now. And I'm charting, right? Mm-hmm. And he would tell me, no, I need your help right now. And I tell you, I would get up from that chair and help him. I love my CNAs. And honestly, like older CNAs too, because he's older. He's in his 50s or 60s. Okay. He's from the Caribbean. So he has this super like strong personality, but I love him so much. He would feed me too every time. Mm-hmm. But he knows, like he tells me, like, John, I am not your maid. Mm-hmm. So let's help each other. I know that, and I never treated my CNAs like a maid because I was there before.
Yeah.
And my mom almost is like a PAB for a family because my mom is a caregiver for our family. So I understand.
Yeah.
And again, it's a teamwork, right?
Yeah.
So you're supposed to treat each other with respect. It is true, though, that some nurses feels like they have more authority and power over CNAs.
Yeah.
And they treat them like crap.
Yeah.
Which is not fair. Because if this CNA is not here, you're still going to have to do all that job.
You're struggling.
Oh,
do you know how much I do during a shift?
Like, you're going to die.
Yeah.
And I wish those, like, shitty nurses who thinks PABs are slaves will experience that. And the CNA just leaves.
Yeah.
Because they have no other choice but to do it themselves.
But what they tend to do, in my experience, like,
right?
Because the hospital where I work,
right,
there's on each floor there's like 3 pods.
Right.
Like there's
it north, south,
center?
Exactly.
Yes. In theory, there should be 1 PAB per pod.
Right.
That doesn't always happen.
Yep.
Sometimes another PAB is on break. Somebody called sick. They couldn't find a replacement, whatever. And you are 1 PAB for all 3 pods.
Yep. And you're running around.
36 rooms. The nurses have 6 rooms each. You can help me change a diaper.
Oh, absolutely. I have seen that where nurses are literally there sitting and they would take that phone, talk to the whole unit.
Yeah.
PAB in the center pod, PAB in the center pod, room 26. I'll say, girl, that time that you wasted calling the PAB, you could have done that thing.
Sometimes they don't even do that. They literally just come and find us. Like they search all the rooms to look for us. And I'm like, the amount of time that took you.
Right. Like you could have done that.
You could have done it.
And I've seen it because there are actually nurses who just don't feel like doing those things.
Yeah.
But yes, like honestly, like that's how it should be anyways, that we are helping each other. At the end of the day, that's how you make the job easier.
Yeah.
And that's how we finish earlier. Have you ever worked with any CNAs? Have you ever experienced bullying in the CNA community?
Not towards me personally, but I did work a shift. We somehow had an extra PAB and she refused to work with the other 2 PABs because she apparently had been bullied by them. And so she was just like refusing. If they called her for help, she would say, no, I'm not talking to you. And they were trying to explain their side of the story. She was trying to explain her side of the story. And I was just like, I don't want to get involved. I'm just a float. I've never met any of you before.
Right. I'm just trying to do my job here and leave.
Exactly.
Right. But like, you know what? I'll take the side of the person who's saying she's being bullied.
Yeah.
Bullying is very prominent in the nursing community.
Yeah.
And it's just hard because, again, like, again, nurses bully CNAs.
Yeah.
And that's so true too.
Well, and I feel like it's different because feel like between nurses, like you're always with the same group of people because you have your floor, you have your unit, you have your shift.
Right.
So the bullying happens because you know each other. But as a PB, I'm a flow. Sometimes, like oftentimes I'm working with nurses that I've never even met in my life before, and they bully me just because I'm a PB. They have no reason. They're just automatically
sees you as
lesser than.
a lesser because you're not a nurse.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
And then it's really interesting sometimes how like the tune will change because sometimes I'll say like, oh yeah, I'm a nursing student or LPN student. Honestly, I don't understand the difference between an LPN and an RN because licensed practical nurse and LPN in my mind is a nurse too.
So in a very basic way of explaining it, you're basically a nurse who cannot administer
IV medications.
IV medication.
Exactly.
And I'm like, wait a damn minute.
Yeah.
Like
LPNs get treated lesser than too, but that's a whole nother topic.
It's a whole nother topic. So I have another question for you. And this is one of the questions actually that people ask.
Okay.
Because there are CNA who tells patient that I'm a nurse.
That's so awful.
Because, you know, like I completely understand that maybe sometimes it's just hard to explain to patients because, you know, general public doesn't understand the healthcare system just like us. Like we still have trouble like knowing what a difference is with a CNA, an LPN, an RN, and all other things. But there are CNAs who tells patient that they're a nurse. Okay. What do you think about that?
I don't like that. And I mean, I understand why some people would do it, especially if it's a case of a patient with like dementia.
Right.
Who doesn't understand who you are anyways.
Right.
Like, I understand why they do it, but we're taught in school that you should always clarify, I am not a nurse, I am a PAB or CNA or whatever your title is. Well, or even like, you know, they are assuming you're their nurse and then they start asking for things that as a PAB you can't do. They might start asking you for a Tylenol. And then what are you going to say? I'll go get your nurse? Well, I thought you were my nurse. Exactly.
So how are you going to explain that to the patient, or how are you going to like, you know, justify that situation?
I even remember the first time I met you, we just happened to like run into each other.
Yes.
And you asked me like where I work, and I told you, and I said, but I'm just a PAB. And you immediately stopped me and were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, you are not just a PAB.
You're a freaking PAB. Yeah. That's what I always tell people, because I was like, you're not just. You are a fucking PAB, or you are a freaking LPN. Be proud of your job because you are in need in this profession. Without you, we wouldn't survive.
You'd be drowning.
Period.
Well, and I find it so funny too. I don't think what a lot of people realize, a lot of PABs are nurses, like actually nurses from other countries.
Oh yeah, that too. Oh my God, and that is so true.
There's a program called RAC, which is Recognition of Acquired Competencies. It's actually what I did to become a PAB because I had so much home care experience.
Right.
Basically, they give you all the books. They say, here you go, study. When you're ready to write a test, tell us and we'll give it to you.
Oh yes, because I've worked with a lot of like PABs who are bridging to be from the Philippines, my country, who are just transitioning to be a nurse.
Yes.
And guess what? They have 20, 30 years of experience as a nurse.
But they can't work in Canada.
Exactly.
And they're just waiting to write the exam. So they do RAC so that they can at least work as a PAB and still be working in healthcare.
So that's what it's called.
Yeah, it's called RAC, Recognition of Acquired Competencies.
Perfect.
So basically they're saying you have experience, you have the knowledge, you just don't have the diploma. Here's the books, write the exams, we'll give you the diploma. So I did it in about 4 months. I took my time with it. You can do it faster, you can do it slower. It's whatever works for you.
Perfect.
Because it's all based at home, except for, of course, things like PDSB, which is moving people safely, or like first aid CPR. Of course, you have to do those courses in person.
Perfect.
Everything else, here's the books, study them.
And then pass the exam.
And pass the exam with 100% though.
That's a very nursing school thing.
Yeah.
It has to be 100% or nothing.
Exactly.
So my other question to you is that, like as a CNA, have you ever wondered why you're just not a nurse instead of a PAB?
Yeah.
Because you know what? That's another question that people are raising is that, you know, why don't you just become a RN? If you're going to go to school anyways. If you're going to go to school anyways. Yeah. But, you know, but again, I'll take your opinion first, and then I'll tell you what I think.
Well, I guess for me, it's a little different because now I am going back to school to become an LPN, but I had this debate as to whether I should become an LPN or an RN.
Right.
The thing for me was math and science, because you need good grades in math and science in order to go into the RN program, and I do not have that. I was never strong at it. And the PAB program and the LPN program is just a lot more accessible. To become an LPN in Quebec, you just need a high school diploma. They don't ask for any other prerequisites. They don't ask you to have specific grades. They just ask that you have your grade 12 or grade 11 in Quebec, whatever it is. I don't know. But you just need a high school diploma. So it's a lot more accessible. Whereas to become an RN, you need the good math, you need good science. Plus,
girl, I went through it. It was bad.
And the difference too, in Quebec, the LPN program is subsidized. So there's actually no tuition cost.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for an RN program, you have to pay tuition.
That is true.
That makes it less accessible because maybe somebody can't afford the tuition costs. So you're still going to be a nurse. It's just you can't push IV fluids
and everything.
Except for isotonic solutions, right?
Right,
and
exactly.
I think for the PAB, the other difference too is the program is only 8 months long. If you have
instead of like 3 or 5 years.
Exactly. So if you have kids or like another life outside of school and working, it's a lot more feasible to say I'm going to go to school for 8 months and become a PAB and still get to work in healthcare, which is what I want to do.
That's true.
But I'm not going to take like 3 years of my life to do it.
Right. And also because like nurses are always challenged like, oh, if you're an RN, why don't you become an NP?
Yeah.
But you know what?
That's more time. That's more money.
Right. For me, it's like some people are just happy with what they have and what they're doing. And that's the most important part. If you're happy with what you're doing, don't let others' opinion affects you.
I think another thing for me is I'm just trying to prevent myself from having future burnout. Because for me, another reason I decided to go for LPN instead of RN, I'm not interested in being in charge.
Oh, that's so true.
No way.
That is so true.
I do not want to be the nurse that has the final say, that's in charge of everybody. Forget it. Like,
exactly.
No,
like,
I'm not about
listen,
that life.
you have your boundaries. You know your boundaries, and as long as you know them, like that's what's going to set you apart from like others. But again, if you're happy with what you're doing, why be affected on what people opinion is about your job that you love?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and that's like another thing that, I mean, this all may depend on where you live too, because in other provinces, it's not the same. Like to become an RN in other provinces is already a university program that takes 4 years, whereas in Quebec is a CJET program that takes 3 years. So I feel like that might make a difference for people too. It's like what is feasible with the amount of time you have, the amount of money you have, your other commitments in your life, because your life does not just revolve around school. Like, why can't I be happy just being a PAB? Why do I have to achieve more?
And at the end of the day, it's like, you know, like it's what satisfies you when you go to bed at night thinking that you're doing something that you love. And that's why I'm like, I praise every single PAB for the hard work they put in every single day. Because, oh my God, again, the pay that you guys get for the amount of job that you guys do is not comparable. It's not enough. And it's just so hard that, you know, you guys also, just as much as nurses, have to fight for a safe environment to work with, a fair pay, and still you're not getting it. So my other question to you is this: how does the lack of recognition and appreciation for CNAs within the healthcare system impact their motivation and job satisfaction? So
I also had this problem when I was working in a nursing home as well, because a lot of them are Alzheimer's patients or dementia patients who don't even remember my name, even though I've known them for how many years.
Right.
And it just feels bad. I don't know how else I can put it when, like, you know, you give so much care for someone and they don't even remember their name, and then the nurse doesn't even tell you thank you. They just tell you which room they need to change next. Like,
right. Oh my God, that happens so many times.
Why am I going to want to be here? Like,
right. Like you put so much energy, so much compassion to what you're doing, and not even a thank you.
And it's not the patient's fault. Like,
right. Exactly.
You know, it's the other members of the healthcare team that, you know, I'm looking for the recognition a little more. And when a patient tells me thank you, like, it feels so amazing, but I'm not upset if they don't, because sometimes I know that they don't have the awareness to
exactly.
To be
or
able
like
to,
they're in a very vulnerable situation that for them to be able to think properly
Yeah.
is hard.
Yeah.
But again, if you get that from them, it's amazing. But I think, patients still have to thank their healthcare professional and be aware that they should do that every time.
Yeah, for sure. It's
Because
definitely
again, like,
appreciated.
you're not paying us extra for the things that we're doing that's extra to the job description that we applied for.
For me, it depends on the patient. Like if it's some like 56-year-old man who's totally fine, it's just, he has some sort of ailment. Well, like, yeah, I kind of like to hear a thank you. But if it's like 108-year-old Elizabeth who doesn't even know where she is,
Right.
well, like I'm not expecting anything.
Exactly. Like, just give me a smile or smirk.
Yeah, exactly.
I know that I did a great job.
But at the end of the shift, like, because I don't expect the nurse to say thank you every single time I do literally anything.
Of
But it
course.
would be nice at the end of my shift to say like, hey, thanks for all your help today. We really appreciated it.
Oh,
Like that would make me want to go back to that floor.
right.
But at the end of the night, if I say like, okay, bye, like, it was nice working with you. And they're just like, like, I'm not going to want to come back.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I
It's
just worked my ass off for you and you didn't even say thank you.
right. And those nurses probably wants to be appreciated too.
Yeah.
Like, why don't do it to someone if you want it to be done to you?
Yeah.
Like, my God, there's so many things that CNAs goes through that is just like, behind the curtain.
Yeah.
And no one understands it. And it's hard because, as nurses, we are also suffering, but it's almost like a domino effect
Yeah.
that because of the healthcare system that we're at right now, in a situation that we're at right now, we're just,
so broken.
it's so broken. We're just all so burnt out and we're literally almost killing each other
Yeah.
to heal, to protect, to care for the community, and we don't get anything back from it.
Yeah.
And we still have to fight for safety every single time.
I'm on leave for burnout right now. I took a month off.
Oh my God, girl.
And even
okay.
just like the way that my employer was reacting to it and the way that they made me feel for needing a break was just like.
It was so okay. So you went for burnout right now as a CNA.
Yeah.
And what was the taking point for you?
For me, I think I just took on way too much. I was doing school full time. I was doing a home care job 4 days a week. And then I was working at the hospital 2 days a week.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And just the amount of compassion fatigue I was starting to feel and just constantly feeling like I was running and that nobody appreciated how hard I was working. It was too
It just got
much.
into you.
Yeah. And I just needed everything to stop for a little bit so that I could kind of like regain my footing.
So what can you tell to the future CNAs who's listening to this podcast right now? For someone who has been on the industry for almost a decade.
Don't give up. Find what you love and stick with it, whether that be like in a nursing home, whether that be home care, whether that be a hospital. There's even opportunities like I worked with foster children at one point, and there's so many opportunities for us out there. And just like, don't be afraid to take the time to find which one you really, really love and stick with it. And don't give up hope because there's people that are going to treat you like shit and be nasty to you. And, you don't have to be a superhero. You don't have to please everybody. Just do what you love. Try to make at least one patient be happy during your shift.
Like one life change is so much.
It's so worth it.
To be thankful for.
And yeah, just don't give up hope.
Exactly. And again, like to all the CNAs listening to this podcast right now, I just want to say thank you guys so much for the hard work. Thank you for being part of the healthcare team. Thank you for always being there and catching us when we're falling down, when we're crumbling. You guys are our best friend. You guys are the people that we trauma dump with. You guys are the people that suffers with us. And without you guys, we wouldn't make it as nurses. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And you guys deserve more recognition, more value, more money. Because again, you guys are doing so much more just like nurses and over and above and beyond your job. I love you guys so much. And thank you for listening to this podcast episode. And make sure that you download this episode and all other episodes. And make sure that you turn on notification and follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And tag me on Instagram at I Beg Your Pardon with any screenshot that you do. Thank you again so much, guys, for listening to this. And I will see you next week. Thank you so much, Megan.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my God, it is an honor. And thank you for accepting my invitation because you represent all the CNA.
I had so much fun. I loved it.
I love you.
I love you too.
Bye.